Welcome to the Homeschool High School podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. I'm Vicki, and I'm so excited because I get to talk to an author who is new to me, but who wrote a book that I love. So, for those of you guys watching on YouTube, you can see it. It is called Greenback's Book of Law. Awesome. And for our teens who are working on civics credit and will not find information about law, the terminology and concepts that would be useful to know as a citizen, this is a delightful way to add to your civics curriculum. So, with that little plug, Ted Sutton, would you please tell us about yourself and how you came to write Greenback's Book of Law?
Yeah, I can definitely do that, Vicki. So my name's Ted Sutton. I was born and raised in Reno, Nevada, and my father's name is Garrett Sutton, and he's an attorney and he's an author himself, and he's written a dozen books that have sold over 1 million copies in the Rich Dad series.
Mhm.
So he's associated with Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That book sold 30 million copies. So for my entire life, I've been around writing and authors. And, I went to college at the University of Utah, got a degree in mining engineering, and I worked at a mine in northern Chile the summer before I graduated. And I
Wow.
had a great time. Like, it was a fun experience, but it made me realize that I didn't want to work a career in mining. I feel like it wasn't the best fit for me. And so after I graduated, my parents sat down with me and they thought it'd be the best path for me to switch gears and go to law school, just because my father has a business where we set up LLCs for people all over the country. And so he was thinking he'll retire and then I can just take it over.
Hmm.
So I switched gears and I went to law school, and I haven't looked back since. But when it came to writing this book, one of the things I noticed in law school is that I learned a lot of extremely helpful information in law school that's not available to the general public. So they don't teach the law in schools, they don't teach civics, they don't teach how our legal system works. And, perusing Amazon, there's no comprehensive resource out there that educates kids on all these things in one place. And so that inspired me to write Greenback's Book of Law. I've been around authors my entire life, and I wanted to put something out there that people can use to help them in their everyday lives. And so, I went to law school, I took 2 bar exams, I learned all this helpful information that's not available to the general public. And so I decided to write the book, and instead of having a cold and boring attorney write it, I decided to have a friendly dog as the narrator.
And it is a friendly book from the dog's perspective. And it's that teaches law concepts that are useful. It's just useful for citizens to know this, but it does it in a story format from a dog's perspective. It is just the cutest thing ever. So, anyway, can you tell us a little bit about if a parent gets this book for their young person to add to their civics credit? What is the book about? What will they find in the book?
Yeah, so the book simplifies everything that I learned in law school. So these are things like torts, contracts, property law, criminal law, and then I also talk about the Constitution and civics as well. So I cover the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, I talk about criminal procedure, I talk about voting. And so it's kind of like whatever I learned in my first year of law school, as well as civics and our government, just combined into one book. And when I wrote the book, I separated each chapter out by a different area of the law. So, the first chapter is family law, then it goes to property law, contracts, and then the second half of the book sort of goes into government and civics. And so each chapter is its own area of the law. And then with that, I decided to weave a story just to connect everything together. So, it's not like a traditional novel where there's a character arc or anything like that. It's just each chapter covers a different area of the law, and then I wove a story in between. And, what I learned from my dad is that people learn better when you tell them a story, just because they can relate to things a little bit better.
Yeah.
And instead of it just being like a boring, dense textbook, you can relate to the people who are in the story.
Yeah, and that's that it has different characters. So there's parents, there's kids, there's a foster team, and this dog who's holding it all together. And they're having different experiences in life and things that are really interesting to homeschoolers. We are all interested in the Constitution and civics and elections. There's an election in the story. And so learning the concepts of the law in that story form. I had so much fun reading that book. I really did.
Well,
So,
that's great to hear.
yeah. One of the things I was curious about as I was reading it is I'm going, okay, we are learning law concepts in a story form, and this is fun. How is he going to handle things like assault? Because and so for parents who are, going like, oh no, are we going to have violence in our story? There's a video game. What a great way. All of our kids play video games. There's violence in the video game. So,
Yeah, well, that's funny you bring that up because the first draft of that chapter was a lot more intense. As a young guy, I think things that work for me don't work for everyone else. And so my dad read that and he says, parents are going to hate this, Ted. And so it was his idea to make it a video game instead,
yeah,
which honestly worked out way better.
yeah,
Because if it was a real life thing and all these horrible things happened,
yeah.
people wouldn't buy my book. So
But in a video game and the way the story is unfolding, it's kind of amusing. So one of the things I appreciate as a homeschooling parent about the book is there are chapter questions so that the young people engage in what they learned in the chapter and getting the vocabulary down. So they're actually interacting. They're not just reading, they're interacting. And there's a card game in there that they can play. And that is just the best idea ever, is really taking it into a whole different kind of sensory learning by playing cards. So,
I agree. And the inspiration behind that was also Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad, because people read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that was actually used as a guide for the cash flow game. And so what the cash flow game did was it reinforced all the concepts taught in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so I wanted to do the same thing here, where you read the book, you have quizzes at the end of each chapter to help sort of build up that knowledge. And then you test your knowledge by playing the card game. And, when it comes to the cone of learning, simulating the real experience is the best way to retain all that information. And so you simulate the real experience by playing the card game. And then with that, all that knowledge sticks with you, which in turn will help you in the real world when you're an adult.
think about when I was a young person in college 100 years ago. One of the courses that I took as an elective was business law. And I learned those concepts that are in the book, torts and all of that. And it was so boring, I wanted to pull my hair out. And I could have just read Greenback's Book of Law and learned the same things and actually had fun doing it. So, and played a card game while I was at it. So,
Right.
yeah. What is anything else you would like parents to know about this book and how it be of use to our high schoolers?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that they don't teach the law in school, and yet people are expected to know it as adults. And that's a huge problem because there's a lot of things that the school system is not teaching our kids. And I mean, your audience is homeschool parents. They already know that. But the thing is there's no comprehensive resource out there that simplifies the law in a way that's easy for everyone to understand. And so, I mean, up until now, which is why I wrote this book. And what you'll get out of this book is that it'll be a guidebook that your kids can use to help guide them through adulthood. It's going to give them the knowledge that they need to tackle real world challenges. And the best thing is that it's not narrated by a boring attorney who's speaking legalese and who's going to charge you, dozens of hours to explain things to you. It's taught by a friendly dog named Greenback He's knowledgeable, he's friendly, he's approachable, and he teaches you everything you need to know. So this is a resource that you can use to help you in your everyday life. And, I want this information to really stick with your kids and even adults too. I mean, I've talked to parents who've read the book and they've learned something from it as well. Yeah. So this is a resource that will give your kids an advantage going into adulthood, and they can always go back to it if they sign a contract or, if they get into a car accident. There's information in this book that will help them through challenges they'll face as adults.
Yeah, I found it so useful reading it. Well, let me talk a minute about how parents of high schoolers can use this book in their curriculum. So your teens almost everywhere need a civics credit for graduation, or at least half a credit. And you guys all know a lot of the civics curriculum that is out there is boring or inadequate. And so we do a lot of cobbling together, right, parents? And we get this resource and that resource. And so to get a real good comprehensive look at citizenship, that's what civics is about, is understanding not just our national documents like the Constitution, but also where the rubber meets the road in law concepts. And there just aren't resources out there that I have run into in all of my many decades in the homeschool world. So to have a resource like this, it's a full-length book, but an easy read. So if you have middle schoolers that are working ahead on some credits with their siblings, a middle schooler can easily read it and have fun with it. High schoolers will read it. It is not going to make them pull their hair out. It is a friendly, easy read, but they're going to get useful stuff that you add on to the things that you are cobbling together for your civics credit. So for a lot of us homeschoolers, we are logging hours in credits that we don't like the curriculum that's available for. So whatever your state regulations are to earn your civics credit or half credit. So you might need 68 hours, you might need 60 for half a credit. You just log the amount of time that your young person was reading the book, answering the questions, playing the card game. Y'all were discussing it together, laughing about the dog, like enjoying the process, and log those hours down, and that goes towards your civics credit. And so it's a really useful way to have your teen graduate with a civics credit that gives them tools for citizenship. Listen, you guys, everybody who's listened to this podcast for a few years knows I don't plug books very often, and I get lots of requests for sharing about books on the podcast. But I was just so delighted with this one, and I am so excited. So I'm not an affiliate. I'm not getting a commission. I'm just tickled to death with this book. So anyway, okay, so Ted, would you please tell everybody how to get a copy of Greenback's Book of Law?
Yeah, so you can go to greenbacksbookoflaw.com and purchase it there, and then you can also buy it on Amazon too.
Very good. So Greenback's Book of Law, you just plug it into your search and you will find it. So while everyone is planning curriculum, you can look to add that to your civics. So anything else you'd like folks to know?
Yeah, well, I think like we already talked about, there's no comprehensive resource out there that simplifies the law in a way that everyone can understand. It covers contracts, it covers torts, it covers property, it covers civics. You can get a civics credit there. And the best part is that it's narrated by a friendly dog that we all know and love. Dogs are very approachable and friendly. They're much more likable than attorneys. And I want everyone out there who buys this book to use it as a resource to help them through real world challenges. You can use it as an encyclopedia, and, I sincerely hope you enjoy the story. But I mean, even they say to not judge a book by its cover, but my illustrator did a fantastic job with this book cover. So if you only make impulse purchases off of emotion, then by all means buy it because of the cover. But anyway, in all seriousness, I want this book to help kids and educate them on the law so they could use that to become functional, responsible adults.
Yeah. And that's what we're after in the homeschool world. And yes, by the way, the book has a bunch of really adorable illustrations scattered throughout the book, and the cover is adorable. So, all right. So, Ted, we're going to just put the links to getting Greenback's Book of Law in the comments on the YouTube channel and in the show notes and the blog post that goes with this. So folks will be able to find you, be able to order the book as they are working on their curriculum for civics. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, Vicki, it's a pleasure being here.
All right. Well, this has been the Homeschool High School Podcast brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. We will see everyone next week, and thanks to Seth Tillman for editing.